Welcome, everyone, to the From the Shadows podcast. I am your host, Shane Grove. And before we get started with this week's episode, I just want to remind everybody that if you want to dig into everything From the Shadows podcast, visit us at our website, fromtheshadowspodcast.com. There are links to everything on our social media, from Instagram to TikTok, while it still lasts, our YouTube channel, and anywhere you can listen to the show, Apple, Spotify, Podbean, wherever. If you have a incident that you would like to share with us and maybe come on and be a guest, hit the contact button and send me an email, and I promise I'll read it and get back to you. And if it's something you want to share with everybody, we'll set something up and you can be a guest on the From Shadows podcast. We love to hear firsthand accounts. Also, I think there's a button to our Patreon page if you want to get extra content. Hear the episodes early, commercial free. That's all on there too. And if you really want to go crazy with From the Shadows stuff and see all the nonsense that I'm up to, you can follow me at Shane Grove Instagram. Send me a message on there, and I'll get back in touch with you eventually. Eventually. So, with that being said, everybody that listens to the show knows, we're in Ohio, and I love Ohio stories. And as luck would have it, I have what I think is probably going to be the best Ohio Bigfoot story or collection of stories that we've ever had. We've had some good ones. So, but I'll let you guys be the judge of this. So I want to welcome to the show from, I can go ahead and say, Columbiana, Ohio, right? Near the Pennsylvania border. He's almost a Pennsylvania story, but thankfully he's an Ohio story. So, Michael, welcome to the From the Shadows podcast.
Thank you.
So I heard about you from a previous guest. They said you got to talk to Michael. He's got this situation basically on his property. And when he started telling me, and then I started talking to you, and you started telling me, I was completely blown away by some of the stuff that you shared with me. So I want you to just start from the beginning and give a description of where you're at and where you're living and what is going on. And I mean, I think it's amazing what I've heard. So I want everybody else to hear just what is happening.
Yeah, no worries. I live in Columbiana, Ohio. I've been here since 2011. Lived in Boardman before that, before I got divorced, and but got my own place out here. And I said, well, I want a place in the country. Oh, is that a mistake? But so my whole life I've had a lot of different things go on, but bought this place 2011, and in 2012 had my first encounter, mostly because the fact is when I moved in, I had 7 lights around the perimeter of the house. Couldn't figure out why in the heck there were so many lights around the house. And I said, it kind of bothered me, but I'll leave them on, just see what's the deal is. There's a reason for them. But they started going out, and took about 6 months. One went out, then another one. Then I decided to hey, we'll just let it go. And it got down to about 1 or 2 lights, and I still keep 2 lights on till this day, because that's about the minimum that I'm willing to do. But these lights all went out. Didn't tell Shane the whole thing, but I'll finish this here. But we went to bed and turned around, and about 3 o'clock in the morning, my bladder said it's time to get up, and I smelled wet dog and garbage. Couldn't figure out what in the heck my dogs had got into. And I'm like, well, what's going on? And I have an upstairs bedroom that overlooks my back room, and I don't have air conditioning. So luck would have it. Yeah, I can say luck now. The window was open because I wanted some air, so it wasn't too hot. Had the fan on for the dogs, and they're kenneled downstairs. And luckily I went to the bathroom because I overlooked the banister to the window, and it turned into Jerry Lewis because all I did was stand there in awe for about 10 seconds to try and figure out what the heck I was looking at. The top of the window in my back there's a pole in the back of my house, and the top of the window is 10 foot tall, and this thing was every bit of 6 inches short of that window. So it was every bit, and it was kind of hunched over looking in. And the window is 54 inches wide. It filled the whole window. I could see light around its waist because it had a very tapered waist, big, thick, wide, just huge. And it smelled because it was warm out, and it just stunk. And I just literally didn't believe what I was seeing. And like I said, I turned into Jerry Lewis and went, hello. And I just literally went to bed, and I just didn't see what I saw. So about, the next day in the afternoon, I said, well, I'm going to go out and look because there's dirt out there. And there was every bit of probably 17, 18 inch footprint that was 8 or 9 inches wide at the window. So I kind of knew I wasn't seeing things. That was it for a couple months. So that was the last time I left my windows open at night, and they considered to have the blinds all shut all the way around. I have a pond that we actually have frogs, we have turtles, we have everything else. We've had a lot of different just kind of things after over and over again. Just things hitting the house. We've had and this is going on, and it's usually about a week after every full moon. So it's about due. Right now is the full moon was last week, and notice the full moon behind me. Just kind of remind you that, but it's very unnerving. And a lot of people I've had at one time, I've had 5 of them in the backyard, my whole family unit. The young one has gotten on top of my garage and was watching me from the garage one night, and we were sitting out there and just said, you see that? And yep. And I said, what are you going to do? And well, we're just going to ignore it, and we're just going to sit here and enjoy our stuff. And I said, well, I think we should get up and go in because I don't want to be out here with a young one, and you don't know how, but they're curious. Throughout the years, I figured out that all these experiences. I have a path. I have 8 acres, and it goes through the back. It's all wooded. I'm surrounded by farmland, and a lot of the farmers, it's getting tough, so they've cut down a lot of their trees. We've got, farther away, over off Route 45, they started putting gas lines in, so they have no place to go. So they kind of have a safe haven here. They don't bother anybody. I don't bother them. I don't go outside at night. I've resigned to the fact that I don't need anything outside at night, and just lock everything up. They don't bother anything. They just like to, I've left the front window open because they have to stand out there, and the dogs do see them and bark at them. And once they, they'll hide and kind of get, I call them husky ninjas because they literally, they could be standing, I've had one standing 30 feet in front of me, and with a witness standing there, in between 2 silver maples, and the old maples were probably about this big. They're 18 inches across, and there's 2 of them. And we were standing there, and I said, "You see those 3 maples?" And he said, "Yeah." It was a silverish colored one night, and I shined a light on it, and he said, "Yeah, I see it. Yeah, it's right there. There's 3 trees. Yeah." And I shined the light away, waited a couple seconds, shined it back. That little tree was gone. And he said, "Where did the other tree go? What the heck?" And so by showing these people and proving that fact is that, and Shane, we talked before, is that what people don't do is they do not look high enough. You need to adjust your gaze, look up, because these things, I'm 6'2", and I come to its belly button. When I went out, literally every midriff, and you could, if it was on here, you wouldn't be able to see me. They're that big. And I don't care if I ever see them again. For some reason, they always seem to find me and, do that. It's kind of almost like a curse. Everybody says it's a gift, but that's not, you see them along highways, or you see them, but there's, other places that you actually get. I actually don't hunt anymore. I was an avid hunter for years. I've had things yell at me. I've had things scream. I've had tree knocks, calls. There is one specific call that when I know they're in the area, you can make a call, and that's how you can call them in. And I've done that for several people in the past. And we don't go looking for them. We don't go looking out there. They don't like bright lights. They don't like loud noises. So I've had to fire some shots into the ground, and don't want to shoot in the air, but they don't, that's enough to get them away from the house. And I have a 4,500 lumen spotlight that I actually shine into the woods so that they stay away, to keep them away from, and I have a light out on the side. So if we go to our cars, those are fully lit. But you still see them every once in a while. They'll be in the front yard. They like the horse chestnuts out there. They have, oh my goodness, there's, like I said, it's monthly pretty much. If you want to look for and you want to find them, you will be able to get in proximity and hear them, and just everything from a young one throwing a fit in the back of my property. You could hear it, didn't want to go. It was almost like a 3-year-old throwing a fit, just screaming, and it was loud. The whoops, across the road. There's people that, the farmers and stuff. And if you ask anybody that my neighbors, nobody will talk about it. They all just kind of hush up, and they nope. And I did get one gentleman, he was down the street, and he told me he's got an eyebrow light over his house, above your door in your front house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He said he was sitting there watching TV one night. He felt something looking at him, and he's looking around, and he looks up above the door, and there's a face in the window above his door looking in at him. And he said, I said, how fast did you move? He says, I got my shotgun, ran out. He said, by the time he was gone. But it was looking in. I said, did you put a curtain up like I do? And he said, no. He said, I just ignore it. I don't look. But nobody wants to speak about it. So you can pretty much talk to anybody from Columbiana that lives at least a mile or two outside of town, and there's woods around. You will find them. You will see them. I'm a mechanical engineer. I have a good job. I don't need anything, on that. I pay my bills, and I just want to live my life. But, sometimes people think that, you're crazy and that you're not, all there. But it's more of like I said, it's fun, for a lot of times, but as long as there's distance. But that's not something that, you see yellow eye shine, you see red eye shine. And, I've heard people say the red eye shine ones are the mean ones, and the greenish yellow eye shine are the curious ones. And most of the ones I've seen, the eye shine, are all mostly greenish yellow. And I've seen one time there was one, and we have big barred owls that are here, and they don't even have the eye shine. And I've gotten pictures of the owls, and they're completely different eyes. These, the eyes on the owls face forward. These things are farther apart. They're just as big, but they're like reflectors. They literally shine right back at you. They stand there and they sway back and forth, and just so that it looks like a tree or something moving. We have a blueberry bush. I've had them stand behind the blueberry bush. They're so big they look over the blueberry bush, and to just kind of sit there. Another time I have a pond, in front, and I have a pool in the back, and there's one of those juniper bushes that you see. Mm. It stepped on one. It was hiding probably 20 feet from the back door, watching TV. Literally, and you can, we'll leave the sliding door open at night just to get some until I go to bed. But you smell them, and the dogs will, I have a 150-pound dog. I have a 110-pound dog. Both of those are Connie Corsos. I have a 75-pound pit bull and a 76-pound lab. And there's nights that they will not go outside at dark. They wait. We have to make sure we take them out before it gets dark, because when it gets dark, they will not set foot outside. They'll stick their nose out, and I have to take them out front if they don't smell anything. So I take them out the front where they're in the light, so they can go to the bathroom before we put them to bed. But there's they've had several instances where I think that they've had like run-ins with them as well, because when Connie Corsers are not gentle dogs by any means. And they're usually not afraid. These dogs are deathly afraid of that. So, any other questions, Shane? I feel like I'm just.
No, I just, no, I just wanted you to get out what it was that, you were thinking about. And then I can go back and ask some stuff. Cause
Sure.
so like the first night, you said the dogs were kenneled downstairs. So it's in a different part of the house where they couldn't tell that there was something standing in the back.
They look right there. It looks right at that window.
Okay. Yeah. So I just wondered if the dogs had even known that there was something back there at that point in time, if they, would be going crazy, because
They weren't. They were quiet. And that was what the funny thing was. And they didn't even stir when I said something. It was weird. It was totally, and it was almost like these things put out, you can feel them also. Like, you've heard the infrasound.
mm-hmm.
You're so hard to you can't even describe it, because almost like a predator that's standing there and you freeze. And I don't know. It's just really, really hard to describe with how that happens. But I mean, they're dark. I mean, you never really get a good shot at their face because it's always dark when I see them. And you see the outlines. You can see, very vivid outlines of what they are. And they kind of, most that I've seen when I shine the light is, they'll kind of turn, but almost like a giant orangutan is the easiest way to say it.
That's what you, if you didn't know better, that's what you think you were seeing, was a giant orangutan.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost the easiest way because they're a very humanish like face expression wise, but you really, their eyes are farther apart, but and you really can't, it's too dark. You really can't make out their whole features, but you can see, the eyes, they're deep set eyes, and you can see that it's got a wide nose, but you can't give that kind of detail with that. But, I kind of developed a fetish for bright flashlights. So I have flashlights all the doors. It's kind of funny because, you're always lighting flashlights just to make sure that, because that's one of the things that would be, I'm very protective of my puppies and the dogs and everything else, but you don't want to have, something, because do you know what an ironwood tree is, Shane?
No, I do not know what an ironwood tree is.
Hardest trees that you can get in Northeast Ohio. We have a arch that I actually have pictures of. I've got casts. We've got the biggest cast that we've gotten so far was 18 inches long, 9 inches wide. We've got a handprint that was cast in the front yard. The night we saw that, we did file it with BFRO, and we had the BFRO come and take casts. And the handprint itself was 17 inches wide, 11 inches from here to here. And it was in 11 inches because its hand was bent this way, and 2-inch round fingers. The fingers were 2 inches at least.
Jesus Christ. And that's the stuff you sent me pictures of that we're going to put up on. We'll put that up on our social media for people to see. I mean, the handprint, I was amazed at just the width in that picture of the hand. I mean, I can't even fathom it. I mean, something that big. And as you were telling me beforehand, like just talking about the size of these things, and you guys being up in a tree stand, and how big, how much.
I don't, because of it. Yes.
Yeah. And would you mind sharing like the detail, like you told me about you guys out hunting and
yeah, I was an avid hunter for years and years, and for the last 10 years I quit hunting. I don't go in the woods. I try to stay out of the woods as much as possible. When I do go in the woods, it's not so much for protection, it's for make noise, because they don't like loud noise. They're very solace and very, they're not, I don't think they want to hurt anybody, but when you're messing with someone's food, they get they get a little protective, I guess. But we were on a friend of mine. We were out hunting, and it was in southern Columbiana, in not too far from where the Matt Moneymaker made the original one that he had for years. He called the I can't remember the name of it, but
the Ohio, they call it the Ohio Howl.
Yeah,
that recording.
And I've heard it several times.
Yeah,
but we've had a lot of things that just it's kind of unnerving. I start stuttering when I get nervous because it just makes your hair stand up still. But we were out hunting, and we had gotten it was kind of a malformed. We were thinning the herd, but it was a 6-point the week before, and he basically had been injured, so we kind of took that. But we took the tarsal glands the next week, and we were bow hunting, and we climbed up, and we were about 100 to 125 yards apart. And I had a tarsal gland hanging off my stand, and he had one hanging off his. And when these things are around, you don't hear a thing. It's so quiet. It's like and that's why I said this, you hear this grumbling, or you kind of feel the hair on the back. It's almost like having some type of ghostly experience, I guess. But when you're sitting there, we're both 125 yards apart. This thing roared, and it literally, every hair on your body stood up, and it figured out that it was being, I guess, messed with or something. Felt, but he said it sounded like it was 10 feet from him, and it sounded like it was about 10 feet from me, and we were that far apart, and that's how loud it was. It was at least 125, 130 decibels of just pure. It was a roar, almost like a jet engine, but it was the loud. I don't know anybody that could yell that loud or roar that loud. No sooner did that happen, I got a text. Are you ready to go? Did you hear that? It was right next to me. But wait till the sun comes, because we were out. We go out in the dark, and typical. And it was on a farm, so it was a tree line on a farm, and we kind of learned where the cut throughs are. Still to this day, I mean, if it's light out, I'll go help people track things, because I've tracked, a lot of deer and everything else, and found, a lot of different things that tracks, being able to find different things and seeing different ones in that respect. Yeah, it's scary, for lack of a better term. I don't ever see one again. That's why I don't care.
Well, I mean, I can't imagine being out there in the dark hunting and having that noise just out of the blue, just from nothingness.
Yeah.
And why do you
just this roar? I can't even make the sound. It's
so I wonder if it smelled the scent that you guys had, and then once it figured out that it really wasn't a deer, it was like, all right, guys, you know.
It was offended, and that's why I said as soon as you start messing with their food. But it was whatever it was. I did not see anything, didn't really care, and I had some old timers tell me, oh, that was just a big deer. I've heard, that's why I said I've gotten several, heard just about everything. The hoops, the hollers, like I said before, having, young one throwing a fit, and it yelled louder than any, and it was, I would say 150, 200 yards away. And it sounded like it was like the neighbor's kid was crying, is how loud it was. But,
well, and you would think, and it's interesting that you said like none of the neighbors will say anything.
Nope.
But they have to be hearing some of this stuff too. I mean, 8 acres sounds big. It's not that big. I mean, it's out here in the country. 8 acres is not big.
Nope.
You know what I'm saying? And here you can hear somebody in their house a mile and a half away across the field. Yeah. If they're talking loud or there's music or something, it carries. Yep. out here in the country. And if something is that loud, I just don't understand how, like, maybe they just don't want to talk about it, or But you
No,
but you think there'd be safety in numbers if they're like, hey, we saw this, now he's seeing it. Okay, maybe we can talk about it a little bit.
and that's the whole thing is that, we've got another friend of mine. I have stories because another friend of mine actually shot one, and it ran off, but he had found a nest of baby skunks, and he had these, and he was in 4-H, so he was a country boy. He had no, qualms about, and he found baby skunks, so anything that was living, and this thing literally peeled the top of his cage off and was eating the baby skunks. It ate them all out of, and he walked out with a shotgun and literally was probably, he said, 25, 30 feet from it, and he shot it dead in the chest, and it literally got scared. He said it didn't do much. It just ran off. And
I gotta be honest with you, anything that can stand there and just eat baby skunks,
Yeah.
it's probably not going to be affected by a shotgun blast to the chest.
I mentioned earlier about the ironwood tree. We have an arch bent, and you could actually see handprints on this thing where it made an arch. And under the arch, we found a dead deer, and the only thing missing out of it was its liver.
Okay, and I've heard that a ton of times where they'll you'll go find deer like that, and it's just the internal organs that are removed. And who does that? A hunter doesn't do that.
Nope, not at all. And like I said, I have a path in the back property line. It's, like I said, 8 acres isn't that big. It's 1,000 feet wide. So having 1,000 foot, but where you have a little 4-wheeler path. When my daughter was here, and she would do that and everything else. And so we put a path in, had a path we could cut through. And these things, weather will knock trees all in the same direction because it comes out of the west and will blow one way. When you get things that don't want you back there, they will knock trees down this way. They knock trees down this way. And, even if, you're, like I told you, you're more than welcome to come over. I'll walk you through and show you everything. And the proof is in the pudding. And that's why I sent you the cast. That's why I sent you the handprints. That's why I sent you, what I have. And I have other things too, that we, just kind of, now we see stuff. My wife, like I said, the one night we came home, the one report we had, it was, 6.5 foot at the back, and it was on all fours. And my wife called it a giant raccoon. It ran into the cattails, and she literally went out, let the dogs out, and started yelling at this thing to leave her dogs alone and to go away. And it was kind of funny having a little 5'4", German woman standing there yelling at this thing. It was just shaking her finger and yelling at it. I said, "Oh, he's really going to listen to you." I just cracked up, and I just thought it was hilarious.
So this thing got down on all fours, but was still above like 6 foot high. Like,
it was taller than me.
Because most reports that you hear when it gets down, and people describe it like almost as a spider, like looking.
Yep.
But they say it's almost flat to the ground, and but this was still.
It was Matt. When I talked to Matt, he described it as a mature male. It was a kind of an alpha, and it literally looked like a giant raccoon. It was really, really thick. It was unbelievably thick. It was over 4 or 5 feet thick at the chest, and I don't even really know how to describe that. I've had another friend here, and you said about the whole thing, they look like a spider. This thing went almost flat to the ground, and all it was the elbow and the hand is all the higher. It was all the way on a full spread. So it got down as low as it could get. And he was yelling, and, he started, it scared the living crap out of him. And he went to get in his car. And that's why I said the lights and everything else. That's why I started putting lights up, because it was up front in, looking at, whatever, I don't know what it was doing, but they never hurt anybody. We've never had anything happen like that. Just all I tell people is leave them alone. Because they're here, they're real, but they also have, families, they have, don't shoot them because, they have to go home to their families too.
Well, so do you just attribute this all to just them being really curious about what's going on? I mean, why they come up? Obviously, I don't think you're feeding them, right? Because you don't really want them up at the house.
No, look at it. I look at it this way, and I kind of thought about it, and it's funny you asked that because somebody else has asked me this before, and I said, what would you do if you lived in the woods your whole life and there's nothing else to do, and you find there's a light? Hey, what's in there? Hey, there's entertainment, there's people, there's smells, it's curious. And what do primates do? They're curious, but they're shy. So, and it's almost, and I say the whole thing about orangutans, but they are super smart. I've put up and they say, okay, you can't get a picture. How come you can't see this? How come you can't do that? Well, because I've put up stuff. I said, DFRO, those guys, they put up microphones, they put pheromones on it, and they actually have recordings of these things smelling the microphones. It hasn't been published yet, but you find if you face one way, you face it the other way, whatever, they walk around it. It'll trigger it. You can actually get pictures of nothing. You get pictures of, a branch bent over this way and it will trigger it. And that's all you see is the tip of the branch, or you'll see something else. And I actually have gotten the back of a foot once, but you couldn't tell what it was. We get bears around here, so it kind of looked like a bear, but we don't have bears. They're only in the spring and when they're wandering off and doing different things. But yeah, we don't have that type of. No, it's something that is weird. It's really strange, and you get the ones that don't have any infrared, and they still see them. We had one that we put up that wasn't infrared, and we were trying to get them where they would go to the pond, and there was a spot where they would come in and out. We had blackberry bushes. Just another story. How many deers do you, deer love blackberries, of course. These blackberries, the blueberry bush too, but the blackberries up by the pond were probably 8.5 feet off the ground. I don't know any animals other than birds that could get them. And the birds don't eat at night. So you see them, it was out cutting grass. I was looking at them saying, oh, I have to come get those tomorrow. Went out the next day, gone. Nothing. Clean, strip clean.
Snooze, you lose, man. I'm just going to say that.
Exactly.
Especially when you're.
It's a competition. And, that's the other thing that, they have. There's other things that was like, well, how come you don't plant Bigfoot berries? You don't plant this. You should feed them. No. That's no. They get enough nutrition. We have peepers. Like right now, there's a ton of frogs, and they're due around this week, and we'll have some activity, and I can guarantee we'll have activity this week. But like I said, week after the full moon is usually on a cycle, and they follow the deer. If you hear coyotes. They'll usually around the coyotes, and you can call. It was raining out one night, and I heard the coyotes going, and I made a call and got one to roar that was probably a quarter mile off. And I told my wife, get in the house, because they're coming. And, she's like, why are you telling me to get in the house? I said, you don't want to see these things. She didn't sound too happy. But, yeah, there's a lot of different. So we kind of. They would get too close, and then I would take, and I have a Kubota, and I would take the tractor and I would push all of the brush and everything else and clear everything out so they couldn't get close. And then they would take trees, they would 4-inch maple or whatever, and lean them against, saying, okay, you stay over there, I'll stay over here. And if they would actually go past it, I would take and I would literally push all those over and shove them back, and they would put them back. They would literally come and put them back, saying, no, this is my spot. This is me. And I'm like, these things are big enough where a man could not do this by himself. They're 18 foot tall. Who do you know is going to, other than a professional caber tosser, if you see the telephone. But yeah, pushing over trees, doing different things. It's almost like a game to these things because they're bored. And that's why I said they're curious. They're bored, and it's turned into kind of I've learned to love these things from a respect factor. The power that they possess and to be so nice and curious and everything else. But yeah, I've never had anything bad happen, other than looking, and that's not even bad. Them looking in a window, they never, broke a window. They've never done anything else to break into anything, and whatnot.
That so do you? I mean, because people, I mean, there's people will be listening and be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe he thinks these things are so nice." Okay, but I think, but I, well, but I, but I think what I think, yeah, I think you have a healthy respect for them for sure. You appreciate what they are and what they're capable of doing, and but I mean, I think talking to you, listening, you know that if push came to shove, they would defend what they thought was theirs,
Right.
and it wouldn't be pretty, probably.
No, they could rip them. They could rip you limb from limb without even thinking twice. I've seen scratches and on trees, 12 feet up, 13 feet up. Where nothing could reach it. There, we have, a lot of different. There's deer and stuff that run around, and you have, they're always cutting through the yard. They're always, and everybody's like, "Oh, you sure it's not the deer? And you sure it's not this?" No, I know where the deer go. The deer actually, it's gotten so bad. One year it was so bad, the deer were sleeping in the light. They were sleeping right.
Oh my gosh.
I looked out and I saw ears flickering, and I went, did one of these. I have an upstairs window, and I kind of looked around and honey, come take a look. Those are deer, right? Yeah, there's 6 deer sleeping in the light, and so that you could see. It was probably another 30, 40 feet of light beyond it, but they were sleeping literally in the light.
Okay, that's more crazy than some of the Bigfoot experiences.
Yeah, that's what I said.
I've never. Yeah, I mean, deer do everything they can to hide.
Yeah, yeah, they sleep in. They sleep in the front in the pond. They bed down. I have literally, you can see the beds, but they literally stay right there, and they stay right close to the house, and they know they're safe, and because I don't bother them, the dogs don't bother them, nothing else bothers them except these things. But you can also hear the other animals aren't stupid either, because it is dead silent when these things are around. You can't, the crickets even stop.
I was going to say, I can hear the crickets out your window right now. Out your window right now. So a couple things I wanted to ask about, like the eye shine. So you're actually getting light, like when you're shining the spotlight or your flashlight, you're coming across their eyes and getting a reflection. You're not like looking out in the woods and seeing sets of eyes that are self-illuminated or anything.
No, werewolves. No, I don't.
Okay. No, I mean some reports though, especially the red ones, that people see red sets of eyes that seem to be not eye shine, self-illuminated.
Yeah, I've never seen that. Like I said, I'm not one of those. It's very humble and it's humbling, this experience, and I consider myself either cursed or lucky, like I said, but I don't know. To have rocks and stuff, my daughter's had rocks, thrown at. That was another thing. She was leaving and it was dusk, and to have a almost acorn size, a walnut size, I should say, 3/4, 1 inch rock thrown over her head, and it was a frozen rope from the woods, which is probably 180 feet away, coming straight across over her head. And I don't know a human can throw like that.
Had to be a squirrel.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious. So you mentioned that you have done calls to call them in. Yeah. How did you figure out, like, what was the call?
By hearing them
call them in, and not like, hey, let's fight, or whatever. Like, how did you kind of figure that out?
By hearing them, they'll be across there. We'll have one over here on our property, and we have one across the street, and they'll call to each other. And I've sat and listened to that on several occasions. And like I said, other people will deny it, but they just act like, or you don't go outside if you don't hear it, and like a tree falls in the woods, does it still make a sound? Yeah, but you'll hear a whoop, or you'll hear wailing. The fight one is more of a roar, and that was why I told my wife to get in the house, because I made that call and I heard roar. Oh, go, get in the house. And she's like, I said, you heard that, right? And she goes, yep. And I said, yeah, we don't want to be out here when he gets here, because he's going to come looking. And that was, I must have done a wrong inflection, or I did something different, but it was very certain ones. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I said, you just hear it, and the ones that do on the shows there's a couple of them that do it pretty good, but there's a more, I don't know, they're depending on what part of the country you're from. If you go, that's like somebody from Texas coming up here and trying to talk, it doesn't sound the same. And but they have, I don't know what the area that they cover, or I don't know, how many areas, but going back to, them putting the oil lines in, everything else is pushing them away out of their original habitat where they were at, out in the middle of the woods, not bothering anybody. And then you get these big tractors and trucks and everything else coming in, pushing them, and they have to adjust. It's kind of like the same thing with, you get raccoons in the city, you get snakes, down south, you have, everything else trying to eat. Like I said, they need a certain amount of sustenance to be able to thrive. And, there's enough around here that, in the wintertime eating squirrel sickles, I don't think that would get them by too good.
Now you mentioned to me that you kind of felt like this was a family unit that might be that your property, and maybe like, I can't imagine it's just 6 acres or 8 acres of woods. That do you get a sense of how much area maybe they're covering?
I mean, they only come around at least once. At most, I see them once a month. You hear them, or they're around, but they have to, I mean, if you're able to cover, a regular human can cover 30 miles a day.
Okay.
So you figure traveling, and, deer need at least 6 square miles to survive. These things are crossing into, you have to think about it on a scientific level of, what do they need to survive to be that big? What are you eating? What are you getting into? I mean, there's people and stuff that they've seen them in dumps and some other things that, they get into, but that's a bad diet. But you got to at least figure at least 15 to 20 square miles. I would think, at least, because there's enough room around here for them to, cut across. And, another friend of mine, he lives a couple miles, and he sent me pictures in the snow the one day, and the footprints were 6 feet apart. And he said, "You ever seen footprints this big?" I said, "Yep." And he said, "They're about 6 feet apart, and they go right across, and they were headed towards my house." He lives north of me, and they were headed this way. But yeah, sorry I'm boring you. I don't mean to make you yawn.
No, it's been a long day. Hey, only the people watching on YouTube know I was yawning, so you just ruined it for the thousands of other people listening.
There we go. I just busted you. Yeah. See, you have to pay.
You peeled the curtain. You peeled the curtain back on the magic.
You can't believe
it. But so I just, so how long do you, if it stays currently how it is, I mean, are you comfortable like living in this place for the next 20, 25 years, knowing that?
I would rather live here than have somebody else that would try to hurt them. I would not recommend that. No. That's why I said there's only very few times where I've had to actually make noise to get them. In most of the time, you hear something and you can feel it, and it doesn't feel right. Then that's when you go and you make a noise, or you make something loud, or you get something really bright, and just do that. But yeah, I wouldn't feel comfortable having somebody else live where I'm at. unless they understood where I was coming from.
Now, I mean, you have no idea who lived there before you.
Oh, I do. Yeah, I've
Oh, you
talked.
do?
Yeah.
Oh, you've talked to them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did they have any experiences? I mean,
That was the other neighbors. Nope, no idea what you're talking about. Yeah, we've had a lot of things happen. That's why we're not there. That's why we put up all the lights. Didn't want to deal with it, so they put up all the lights. Just to no, that was what they did, and that was how they dealt with it.
So they do admit that things were happening, and that's why they put the lights up. But
that's all they would say.
Oh gosh, why are people like that? I don't get it. I don't get it, because you're coming at them like, hey, look, I'm experiencing it too. You know, like you'd think you could commiserate a little bit and say,
crazy. That's why I said there's a lot of people out there. It's becoming more mainstream now. But I mean, 10 years ago, if I'd have said somebody, hey, I think I saw a Sasquatch. What? No. And you were a pariah. Go away. You're an idiot. Okay.
well, how many people have you brought out and just let them find out for themselves and made them believe?
A lot of people are big talkers.
Okay.
Let's just talk. Let's just say that, because they'll talk. Oh, I want to come out. The gentleman you had on previously, a friend of mine, he came out, and I walked him through everything. I said, you're welcome to come back as well if you want to come back at night. And nope, I'm good. Yeah, but like I said, a lot of people, they'll say, yeah, I want to come out. We've had shows say they want to come and do an investigation. I said, you don't have to do nothing but sit there and drink beer. They'll come in. I had one other story that I thought of, and I was just, so many things happened. Do you remember the heaters that were really cool about 10 years back that throw the flame up through the middle, and they were the patio heaters?
Oh yeah.
I had two of them on the back porch, and they liked them, and they evidently saw them working, because I got up one day and I went out. One was broken, not tossed over, and the whole top of it, which was probably 12 gauge steel, because that was what reflects the heat, was peeled, was rolled up like a fruit roll up. It literally peeled the thing. It was, and it was weird. Okay. So now I'm back. I have one. So.
Well, like I told you, but like Phil, our producer, I was telling him last night that, that I was going to talk to you and stuff. And he's like, let's go. And I have tons of people, guests I've had on, people that I haven't had on, that have stuff happen, and that, let's go out and let's do an investigation, or first of all, I have experienced enough stuff, paranormal stuff myself, with the judge, and I know I've talked to enough credible people. I don't want to go out into the woods looking and running into something that is going to change the way I look at the world.
Yeah.
Because I believe what people are experiencing and seeing. And, but when you tell me, okay, we could sit on the back porch, hear some stuff, see some shadows, I'm for that, because it's not that far to get into the house. and plus, I mean, there is a part of me that's like, okay, I would like to experience a little bit more than what I have, but I don't want to go out looking for it.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Because I just think it gets you in trouble.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different things you can do with pheromones and some different things. You just put some things in the air and light a fire. They will come. They always do. And you'll see, and it's almost shadow people, and looks all this other. No, these things are not shadow people. They're not this. They're not that. They are you. There is no doubt. And when you have a policeman, his wife, his kid, another friend, his wife, me, there were 6 of us, and my daughter, we're standing there, and that was, we saw 5 in the backyard at one time, and And I said, well, how can you count them? I said, well, look at the size, number one. I said, how many did you see? There's a big one over here. There's one over there. And then the one would pop behind the thing and he would reappear back over 5 feet this way. I said, same one, look at the height. But I said, look how many different heights that you have. And just on different heights, we had 5.
And that's like in the dark, but it's shadowy.
Yeah,
but
and it's backlit. It's really kind of like a sky, like a misty sky, like back here, and it's never completely all dark. So you kind of literally you have something going ding, 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 across but you can still see it, and that's why I call them husky ninjas, because they are just huge, but they're silent. It's amazing. You'll hear stick crack or something else, but it is something that is. It's not something that you take lightly. And once you realize how big these things are, and people sit and say they want to see them, they want to do this, not until you have an experience up close with these things. They are the scariest things ever. I'm there's not too many things that scare me. Lions, tigers, bears don't even really bother me, because I've sat face to face with a bear, and I've had my buddies call me and say, there's a bear, and I go, okay, do you see any nope. All right, you're not in danger. You have a fish? Yep. Give them the fish. And I've taught people off ledges with, animals like that. It doesn't bother me. And as long as you don't turn your back on them. But these things, no, I don't. That's why I said, I don't care if I ever see, I don't really want to see them. I don't really go out of my way to look and see them. No, no.
Well, I'm going to tell you, after Phil hears this episode, I think we may come up this summer or fall, and we may take you up on your offer and just sit back there and just see what happens. I mean, I think this is the first time I've thought, yeah, okay, I could do that, because like I said, I don't want to go traipsing around in the woods. That's not me. That's not my home turf. That's their home turf.
For the ultimate experience, we're going to do an Airbnb, and we'll get you in and put you in the back. We had somebody do that once, and they said that they were going to stay back there in a tent, and they got peed on. It was hilarious, and they didn't stay. They literally left in the middle of the night. It was funny. I'm like waking up in the morning. Where'd you go? I'm home.
I gotta be honest with you. You're not going to get very good reviews through Airbnb if that keeps happening.
Yeah, I went all the way there and got peed on.
Oh man. Well, Michael, I appreciate that you felt comfortable enough to come on and share these. I think people are going to really I can't wait to see the comments and the questions. But I think we kind of covered the who, what, where, why, and how. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and I hope that I hope everybody enjoyed this. And like I said, if Phil has his way, I think we'll make a visit up there, and maybe we'll get another episode where we can come on and talk about what we
bring his cameras. Tell him to bring them. I don't know if he's going to get anything, but
I don't know. I think what Phil is really intrigued about, because he's a movie maker and he does, he knows special effects and he knows sound really well, and he knows camera stuff. I think it intrigues him to see if he could actually capture something that was quote unquote definitive, which I gotta be honest, I don't think any kind of video or picture is ever going to be thought of as definitive, because people are just nonsensical and throw shade at anything just to throw shade at it. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I think that's a fool's errand almost. Like, yes. Unless you had the same event from 2 or 3 angles at the same time, where it was indisputable that, like even 2 angles, one from one side capturing the subject, that I'm not sure people wouldn't still tear it apart,
They would try. And that's what you can't. There's a lot of ignorant people out. I mean, what's the saying? is that ignorance is bliss, and there's a lot of happy people in this world.
Yeah, and I think people get offended by that statement.
Yeah, I know. I don't mean to offend
That
anybody, but
when you call somebody ignorant, doesn't mean you're calling them stupid. They just don't know anybody. They just don't know any better. It's just something they haven't learned or figured out yet. So.
And I would not do that to offend anybody that way, but like I said, you might have to cut that out.
It's in there. Too bad.
Yeah.
Too bad. I think everybody understands. I think everybody understands.
It's life has gotten a lot better since I stopped giving a crap what everybody thought. So that's the whole thing, is that it just,
Well, that may be the secret to the whole podcast right there. Just don't give a crap what anybody else thinks. You know what you know, and just enjoy life. So, well, thanks again. And I mean, I appreciate you coming on. And like I said, hopefully maybe we'll get another episode. We'll come up and see what we can experience. I think that would be kind of cool. So,
yeah.
So, all right. Well, stay safe. Stay safe.
Welcome. And if you have other people get a hold of you, have them reach out. You like I said, we'll have to vet them, but depending on what their intentions are, I would welcome other people as well. Just because something to be shared and to show, and it's not just there's an education behind this to get these things.
Yeah, I agree with you. Absolutely. All right. Well, we'll talk to you. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you, sir. All right.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the From the Shadows podcast. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.